Good morning, you guys. Good morning. I came in real quick to do morning minutes with y'all. I know I was supposed to go live the last 2 days. We did go live to talk about Nancy Guthrie, you guys. But the next one. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know I'm picking up my breakfast. Y'all know this is my morning routine, so I'm picking up my breakfast. So I went. I know I was supposed to go live. We were supposed to watch portions of the SZA episode between Carlissa and Calloway, right? I think that's important. I think it's important because it gives you more insight to the dynamics with Carlissa outside of her interactions with Blueface, but integrating her interactions because of Blueface. Um, Carlissa and how she has conducted herself has and Carlissa is Blueface's mom, for those who don't know. But Carlissa and how she has conducted herself has had more effect than just in her relationship with Blueface. And we are gonna see with Calloway. We are gonna watch her with Calloway, her daughter, Janisha, I think is her real name. But we are gonna watch that dynamic so that you can see the very sneaky, cunning, conniving tactics of Carlissa. Okay, so I want to do that live with you guys, and so that's the live that I'm planning to do with you guys tonight, and then to on on tomorrow, yes, on tomorrow, because right now I don't have anything planned. I'm exhausted. I did a lot last weekend, and then I had a lot going on this week. I had something going on yesterday evening, which is why I didn't get to come live and talk to you guys. I'm exhausted. When I go home today, thank you. I'm gonna try to take a nap so that I can make sure that I'm up and ready. Thank you for the 8 o'clock live so that we can go through that SZA episode because I think that's important. I don't want us to get any more behind on the circus than we already are because the circus is always moving like 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so we are already behind because I haven't really gotten to update you guys about the circus too much. So last night I was listening to some of the footage as I was going to sleep, as I was getting showered this morning and ready for work. I listened to some more details. Carlissa was over at Blueface's house with Blueface and Nevaeh yesterday. Blueface just came off of being in Catalina Island with Ashley, who is another one of his uh potentials, I guess. And so we are going to discuss all of that and try to get caught up on all of that sometime throughout the weekend. But for right now, the two lives that we are going to be focusing in on is a live of the SZA episode between Carlissa. Good morning, Queen Keish. We're going to be focusing on the live between Carlissa and Calloway, the SZA episode, and we're going to look at Carlissa's dad's interactions with Journey, right? And Carlissa's dad is gonna confront Journey about her cussing problem. Okay. Now we know Journey is Blueface's 3-year-old daughter, but Blueface's grandfather is going to confront Journey about her cussing problem. And we are going to see a couple of other little clips of Carlissa's dad and why I think that he's always a good addition to the circus. Okay. So I want to start with this disclaimer because I am going to say something now to go round back to something we talked about before. But I want to start with this disclaimer. I do not, in my reporting of the circus, I do not approve of any of the activities that are being done by this circus, right? However, we are watching this like this is a hip hop opera, right? A hip hop opera, right? And so that's how I'm gonna treat it, and that's how I'm gonna talk about it, right? And so there are gonna be times that I might say something to cheer somebody on because I'm watching this like I'm watching two or three or four or however many storylines going on in a soap opera, right? And what we want to happen or predict to happen in the soap opera may be completely contrary to what our own morals and ethics really are, right? Like because we know that these things are not real, and sometimes we will champion and encourage people to do something that is just not what we would necessarily do, but probably because we feel like we might not ever find ourselves in such these ridiculous scenarios, right? And so this circus has created these crazy, ridiculous scenarios that I could not see myself being engulfed in. I think to some extent we can see ourselves on the milder side of some of these scenarios, but these things are extreme. And that's why I call it, and others have called this, what we're watching, a hip hop opera, right? Or hip opera, right? Because this is like a soap opera. And so we're gonna do a live on Friday where I'm going to talk to Jaden Alexis and tell Jaden Alexis to bleed them baby, because that's sometimes what needs to be done. And so while I was getting some of the things together in order for me to show you some things about what Jaden Alexis has been doing in the last couple of days since Blueface leaked the sex tape, I was thinking about when we were talking about and trying to compare um these characters to other characters in other famous soap operas that have lasted throughout the years, right? And so we had spoke about Victor Newman, Katherine Chancellor. We spoke about Jill Abbott, and who ended up being Jill Abbott, but she ended up being Jill Chancellor Abbott because even though Jill had been married to, well, I'm sorry, had a child with Philip, she was never married to Philip because Miss Chancellor was the only one married to Philip. um, but she was Jill had an affair with Philip, right? Philip Chancellor. Because how Miss Chancellor becomes so rich has to do with her husband, who never makes an entry into the story, but he is important in the story, is her husband, Philip Chancellor, right? And then I think it was Philip. I think the son, Jill's son, and Catherine's husband had the same first name, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta go back and double check. Having this affair, she gets pregnant by Miss Chancellor's husband. They had this son, Philip. We talked about this. Miss Chancellor takes Philip in, and Philip. Then they find out much later down the line, years and years and years later, that Jill is actually Mrs. Chancellor's daughter, right? And so the storyline thickens, right? And so we were trying to figure out, like, who could we compare Carlissa to, right? And so I was thinking like a mix between Miss Chancellor and Jill Abbott, because I was like, she's so messy. I mean, we did get to see Victor's mother, so we did get to see how she would have conducted herself in that relationship dynamic between Ashley and Nikki and Hope and all that mess, Victor had going on. But I found a better example, and this is what I wanted to come and talk to you guys this morning about Morning Minutes. I found a better soap opera character that might encapsulate Carlissa almost to the T. And that character is Stephanie Foster from Bold and the Beautiful, right? When I was thinking and I was getting some of the material together to do this live about Jaden Alexis's response to what Blueface has done to her, the crime that he has committed against her in the last couple of days, right? I was thinking about Stephanie Foster, right, on Bold and the Beautiful. And so, Stephanie Foster, now Bold and the Beautiful was a soap opera that came along a little bit after, Young and the Restless, God and Light, General Hospital, what is the as the world turns, right? Now, as the world turns and God and Light no longer come on that channel, because the stories the story lineup that used to be on that channel, I think that was channel 11 stories, right? I think 13 was General Hospital and all of that, or at least that's over here where I am. That was the channels, right? And so you had as you had, I'm sorry, Young and the Restless would be the first story. And then there was a story named called Loving, right? That was a half hour soap opera. So Young and the Restless was an hour, Loving was a half hour, and then you had As the World Turns, that was an hour, and then God and Light was the last in the series for the day. And then you would have your talk shows begin, right? would have your morning talk shows. Stories would come on about 12:30, and then you would have your evening talk shows come on, right? And so Bold and the Beautiful, after Loving was canceled, then Bold and the Beautiful came along. And on that story, you have the Foster family, and they are fashion designers, high-end fashion designers with buku money, beautiful properties, gorgeous women, and you have these two sons and a daughter that belong to Eric and Stephanie Foster, right? And it's odd because this is the same setup situation that Carlissa has. Good morning, Jessica. Good morning. Listen, I'm just on here really quick so I could, because I found another soap opera character that I think matches Carlissa to a T, right? And so it is, and I said it's Stephanie Foster, right? Stephanie Foster probably is the closest to what we see Carlissa's activity in this hip opera, right? So Stephanie was the matriarch of the family, and in comes this beautiful blonde named Brooke Logan, right? And Brooke is absolutely gorgeous. And she is breathtaking. And Ridge cannot get enough of her. The story starts with Ridge supposed to be getting ready to get married to Caroline Spencer. The Spencer family is another fashion house. They are another powerhouse family. That there's an absence of a mother in the family because the mother passed away, but it's a very strong father, right? And so the story opens where Ridge is supposed to get married to the beautiful Caroline Spencer, and then along comes this valley girl, Brooke Logan, and she takes his breath away. And Stephanie cannot stand it. She is so agitated and aggravated about it. She cannot stand it. And so Brooke was the maid, right? Originally. And Brooke makes it from being a maid to then she becomes part owner of Foster Creations throughout the time span of this story, right? So Brooke, it ends up causing a issue and a rift and tension between the relationship between Caroline and Spencer and what's Reg Forster, okay? And so Stephanie, all of a sudden, Brooke does not become the arch nemesis of Caroline Forster. Brooke and Stephanie Forster become each other's arch nemesis. And so when Ridge proceeds to have his relationship with Caroline, and he has to easily let Brooke down because she's not what the family necessarily wants or needs. Some kind of way, the patriarch of the family, Eric Foster, finds a soft spot in his heart for Brooke Logan, and then Brooke ends up in his bed next. And then this makes the relationship between Brooke and Stephanie even more complicated. And it is actually kind of the pathway that Brooke gets into being part owner of Foster Creations. Brooke has two children, and she has two children that belong to Eric Foster. And so now she has made herself Stephanie's rival. And however, Riggs didn't lose his sights on Brooke. He was upset about this relationship between Brooke and Eric, his dad, but he didn't lose sight, right? But then in comes in another Asian looking beauty named Taylor, right? And Hunter Tylo plays Taylor. And this then becomes this long-lasting rivalry between those two because Caroline dies, right? Caroline dies, and because of her death, Ridge has to move on. And at the time of her death, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Eric and Brooke were still married, right? And so there was some flirting back and forth. There was some inappropriate activities between the two of them. But ultimately, Ridge ends up marrying Hunter Tylo. Taylor, right? And Taylor is this psychiatrist, and Stephanie just loves her, but it never works out, right? And Stephanie is doing everything she can to get Brooke out of her family, to get Brooke away from the men in her family. Brooke even ends up getting her claws in onto Thorne. And Stephanie is just all in all of the men's business. And I think if she probably would have just let Ridge have have Brooke from the beginning, then maybe he would have just wore thin of her, or maybe it would have worked, and then she wouldn't have caused so much havoc inside of her family. But Brooke completely ran through the Forster family, right, and the Forster men, and even throughout all the way up until today, these Forster men love Brooke Logan, right? But Stephanie Forster was the force to be reckoned with. And then when Stephanie passes away, she passes away on the story, she passes away in real life, right? Then you no longer have that matriarch there who is keeping Brooke away from her family, and Brooke gets closer to the family. But when I thought about characters that might be similar to Carlissa, when we're looking at this from the perspective of a soap opera, I thought about Stephanie Forster. At first, I was saying, Catherine Chancellor and Jill, maybe some kind of combination, but no. I think Stephanie Forster really encapsulates what Carlissa is. Stephanie was always in all of their business. She was always trying to micromanage them. And as a result, those men always did what she didn't want them to do. Her husband ends up marrying Brooke Logan. Ridge ends up marrying Brooke Logan. Her husband had some kids with Brooke. Ridge ends up having some kids with Brooke. And not only did she get her hands on Eric and Ridge, but then she gets her hands on Thorne, which is her other son. Yes, Brooke married all three men in this storyline, right? And more, not just them, and more. She got a hold of some more, right? But those are the three men in that had Stephanie's heart. Brooke got her claws into all three of them, right? And so I wanted to come just really quick this morning in our morning minutes and talk about that, let you know what we're going to talk about later on. We're going to go over the SZA episode between Carlissa and Callie Way to fight the argument they get into. And then we're going to talk about Journey and Carlissa's dad and how he is going to approach her, and he is going to scold her and reprimand her about her cussing problem at 3 years old. And then tomorrow we are going to talk about Jaden Alexis' response to the two-time leak of her sex tape. It was initially leaked, a portion of it, and then it was taken down. And then it was released with a longer video of what her activities were with Bravo, who was one of Blueface's managers or friends or some security guard, something. But him and Blueface were longtime friends. And so we're going to go through that. That's what we're going to do on Friday. So I want to make sure that I'm not overwhelming the live, because I know I'm not going to be able to be on there for hours and hours, but we can dedicate a couple of hours. So I wanted to break those two things up so that we can go over it. So listen, I'm going into my office, you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Make sure you eat some breakfast, and then I will talk to you guys this evening.